Hey everybody, Dan Kroll here. Thanks for tuning back in to the podcast. This is episode 13. On episode 12 on July 8th, I talked to Nate Schur, a 1992 West Hancock grad. We opened up everyone's eyes on dad jokes and lots of other awesome things. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, we have almost 4,500 views. So that's just kind of fun, kind of awesome to see. Today, though, I have a larger crew than just Nate like last time. I have members of the 1980 Girls State Championship basketball team. So welcome. Thanks for coming on, ladies and coach.
Woo!
Before we get to them, though, I have to recognize that we now have 4 long-term sponsors and a total of 5 for tonight. My goal for this podcast, obviously, is to raise money for the Sanger Legacy Fund. I'm a proud board member of the Legacy Fund. And for the last month or two, I've kind of been plugging and pushing and trying to get sponsors. And then in the last week or so, I've had people reach out to me. I've reached out to people, and here we go. So I'm really excited for that. Our sponsors tonight, Ewing Funeral Home, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, Diemer Realty, and the Britt Vet Clinic. And then also the 5th sponsor are the people that you see on screen right now. The team decided to each pitch in a little bit at sangerstrong.com and donate to that fund. So thank you for that, everybody. If you want to sponsor an episode, let me know. Message me on Facebook, send me an email if you have my phone number. Right now, my push, I'm looking for businesses outside of the Britt Kanawha communities that would help people in those communities, whatever kind of business that might be. So I'm kind of racking my brain trying to figure that out right now. So real quick here, let's keep you up to date on West Hancock sports. The baseball team finished up their season a couple nights ago. They lost in district play 4-3 to West Bend Mallard over in Fonda. They finished with a 6-15 record. Kaysen Barnes, Matthew Francis, and Braden Walk were all named second team all conference, and Rylan Barnes was honorable mention. The softball team, Carly Bruins and Cameron Eccles were named second team all conference, and Drew Hagen was honorable mention. So congrats to those players. Football, volleyball, and cross country starts up here in a couple weeks, so everyone's going to be getting excited for the fall seasons to start up again. Also, the school's beginning their fundraising efforts to get a new greenhouse built, so contact the school, find out how you can help with that. And Bill Frito is making his last pitch, his last efforts to get people signed up for the alumni banquet. They have to be desperate at this point because he actually asked me to speak at the banquet, so he must have run out of ideas for entertainment. So reach out to Bill on Facebook or send him an email if you want to get signed up for the banquet. And just a reminder about the Legacy Fund that I've been talking about is obviously made to honor Coach Sanger and Mrs. Sanger. They both taught and coached for many, many years at Britt and West Hancock, and we love them dearly. And this is one way for them to give back and us to give back to our community and our schools. If you want to go to sangerstrong.com to donate, go ahead and do so. And again, if you want to sponsor this podcast, that'd be a great way to bring some money into that fund. Thanks to Al DeWard for making that site, Sanger Strong, easy way to give. And then at the end, I'll talk about the cornhole boards that we're raffling off in about a month. I'll actually be at Hobo Days to sell tickets and Hobo Golf to sell tickets as well in about, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. So, and I'm also doing one new segment on here. So ladies and coach, just bear with me for one more minute. I'm plugging 5 episodes ago and 10 episodes ago just to get people watching prior episodes and get the most bang for the buck for the sponsors that I have sponsoring these episodes. So 5 episodes ago, I talked to Don DeWard. He's a Kanawha graduate, long-term D coordinator at Central College on the football team, and he's currently the mayor of Pella. 10 episodes ago, on episode 3, I chatted with Denny Brum, a local legend. He was a teacher and coach for decades, and he was the PA announcer for football for 48 seasons until he hung it up last year. I'm going to post those links on this episode links so that people have easy access to go back and watch those. So, all right, I have talked a lot, so now it's your turn. Let's start off. Have you guys introduce yourselves? Just where you've been in the last X amount of years since high school, jobs, kids, whatever it might be that you want to share. So maybe we'll go like Darla and then kind of work our way around. So go ahead, Darla.
Okay, well, thanks, Dan, for having us and for all you do. This is a neat thing you're doing. And also would like to say, and I think the others might agree, we would be much more comfortable playing basketball tonight than doing a podcast, right, gals? But I am Darla Michelson Schultz. So my maiden name was Michelson. I was a guard. I'm married to Joe. I have 2 kids, Zach and Michaela, and 2 grandchildren, Eleni and Rayla. And I work as a secretary at my church. Is that everything
Yeah.
we
Where,
need to
where do you
know?
live? Where do you live? Are you in Britt?
I live in Independence, Iowa.
Independence. Okay, that's
Mhm.
right. I sent you a record book. I forgot about that.
Yeah, yep.
How about Sue? You go ahead.
I am married for I had to write it down, 34 years. I have taught 28 years of elementary PE, and that's to Linda and Bob Sanger. So thank you. They were a great inspiration to me. I have 2 boys, both married, and just last week I am a grandma. So I have a little girl,
Yay.
a granddaughter.
Yay.
So yeah, and I live in Gillette, Wyoming. Yeah.
Barb, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Barb Burgart Walker, and I am married for 33 years and to Brett, and we have 4 children, 2 of which are married at this time, and 2, hopefully they'll find someone, but no, they will. And we have 2 granddaughter and a grandson. I get to be kind of work when I want to. So I also am in teaching, and I usually do, I actually stayed home after my son has some health issues after he was born. And so I've done that, but I've gone back into the classroom pretty much every year, except for COVID. So this was last year was the first year I had not been in the classroom for a long time, but hopefully I'll be back in again. So now I just do long-term subs, and I get to help out with family members when they need help. So, and we farm outside of Waverly, Iowa, which there's 2 other 1980 grads who live in Waverly now too. So Chris Boyd and Melanie Carter. So.
Awesome. How about you, Carrie? Then we'll wrap it up with Coach here.
Yeah, I have kind of a long, eclectic career. I started off, I was a high school math teacher and a coach. I started off in Clear Lake, Iowa for 2 years. And then I moved to California for 30 years, where I taught high school math and coached as well for another 14 years before I went to work for the California Teachers Association as a union representative. And then after I was done with that, I went into educational consulting. And then I even tried my hand with a friend of mine starting a nonprofit, which was called In Love with the Essence of America. But it was bad timing. And then I ended up coming back to Iowa after 30 years in California to be closer to my family. So now I'm in Britt, and I make good use of my time over at Target.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. Coach, we'll finish with you here on introductions.
Well, Dennis Etringer, I've got 2 children. One lives we live in Marion, Iowa now. Our daughter Jenny lives just a few miles away, and our son Mike lives in Portland, Oregon. I've been retired now for about 12 years. We spend most of the winters in Florida. We probably are in Iowa about 6 months out of the year, and in Florida about 6 months, other than this recent epidemic portion of the stays. So.
Yep. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. It's kind of cool. A lot of teachers and coaches in here as well. I wasn't even aware of. So thanks for coming on again. We're going to talk about the 1980 basketball season, in which you guys won the 2A state championship back 41 years ago now. Just some background. Girls basketball started in Britt in 1971. So only 9 years of basketball had been played up to this championship season. So Coach Hudson started the program in 1971, as well as the softball program. And obviously, if you have any background of Iowa sports history, this was the 6-on-6 era. We'll talk about that a little more in depth here. because some people watching this won't know what 6-on-6 basketball is. So I'm gonna have you guys kind of walk them through that. A little bit about Coach Hudson. He was 329 and 117 in 22 seasons as the head coach at Britt and West Hancock. He won 8 North Iowa Conference titles. That was the conference before the top of Iowa or whatever we have now. He had 57 all-conference players, 4 all-staters, and 1 Hall of Famer. He made it to state also in 1982. Before we get to coach here, I'm going to focus on you a little bit first. Real quick, one of our sponsors, Michael and Brianne Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. Locations in Britt, Kanawha, Clarion, Belmont, and Dow's. Mike's a 98 grad of West Hancock, and his family's been privileged to care for these communities, Britt and Kanawha, since 1977. Go to ewingfh.com or give them a call or get them on Facebook. That's Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. Coach, what years were you a coach and teacher at Britt? Just kind of get some background on you at Britt.
So this is a long time ago. My wife and I both moved to Britt in '74. Both graduates from Iowa State. We both taught, Nancy taught, and with all the anniversaries, ours will be 49.
Oh,
Just a couple
great.
of weeks. So Nancy taught half-time, I taught full-time. And I was in Britt for 9 years. And one of the very first people I met in Britt was Bill. And we had a great time. I enjoyed everything about it. I was Bill's assistant all 9 years I was there. I coached junior high basketball for a few years. That was quite an experience also because we practiced in the morning.
Yeah.
It was crazy. 2 different groups, and Bill came in a lot to help. After Britt, I went to United Community for 3 years, was the head basketball track coach there. And then I was in Boone for about 20 years.
Okay.
I was the head coach for 11 of those years, and then kind of slowed down on coaching a little bit. My kids were going through high school, and I took the 9th grade girls job my last few years, probably 10 years, I guess, there. And I really didn't have a big desire to go back into, head coaching. We really loved the Boone area and the people there. So we've been in Marion now for about 12 years already.
Nice.
And moved here because of grandkids.
Definitely. Yep. How would you describe Coach Hudson's coaching style, and what was kind of your role as his assistant? Besides, you said you did junior high and stuff during that time as well. What was that like working with Coach?
It was always good. He was very kind to me and taught me a lot. And we learned a lot from other coaches too. We had some great coaches in the area, 6-on-6 coaches when we were going there. I think he always wanted everybody just to do their best. I think he really had a lot of respect for the players, and I think he just wanted them to be successful, and he wanted them to play as hard as they could for as long as they could, play smart. I think that was one of the big things that I thought that he always did and tried to do with his players.
Yeah.
And then I did help a little bit with getting the track program started. I helped a little bit with Bill in basketball. So we got together quite a bit. We were a regular at the restaurants uptown Saturday morning or at Sandy cooking us breakfast. So he was like a big brother to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So seniors, class of 80, doing my research, I found out you guys were undefeated in 8th grade, and it didn't say which one of you, but one of you promised a state trophy in high school. Any of you remember that? What were kind of your aspirations going up to high school? Was that?
There it is.
It's our contract, but what we remember is it was Harold Wallen, his idea to do the contract.
Okay.
And then all of us girls signed it. And it says, I guarantee that the present 8th grade girls, I don't want to cry, will go to state basketball and win first place.
Nice.
My dad held on to that in his wallet. I think I had long forgotten about that. He had it in his wallet for all those, well, however many years that was. I guess it was probably 5 then, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he pulled it out after we won. Yeah.
Nice. That's
So
neat.
there's a witness of Will Friesman, and then I can't read, there's one at the bottom, but it's not legible. So maybe it was
Will
Harle.
a coach, or was he just around, or what was
He
on
wasn't a
your-
coach,
No.
or not for our team.
Okay.
But
Cool. That's neat.
he was
That's
a witness.
something to hold on to.
It is.
Yeah.
So
I
8th grade-
remember-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Barb.
I said, I remember signing it after one of the games, the last game in the old gym. And, and that we were up in the bleachers with your dad, Carrie, and signing it. And like you said, I kind of forgot about it. He probably brought it to every game, sub-state game that we played Belmont
Oh,
with.
he had it in on his person always.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Yep.
It was just as much his dream as it was our dream.
That's neat. Yeah. So 8th grade undefeated.
And
JV,
7th.
Did you guys, and 7th? So did you have a JV team also? How did you guys do leading up to your varsity years? How'd that look back then? Anyone
It
remember?
was definitely JV, but I'll go ahead.
Coach
Well,
McNamara. Oh.
We had, there was a 9th grade team and a JV team and the varsity team.
Okay.
So
I thought it was fresh socks.
it
I
could have
think
been.
it depended on who we were kind of playing. Some schools had JV, some schools had freshman JV, some
That's
schools
true.
had freshman. So that's,
Yeah.
and I know when you guys were freshmen, not all of you played all the time on the freshman team, but I think they maybe lost only one game.
Okay.
And I think the JV was really pretty successful also, because there were a couple of kids that a year older than you that were really quite good basketball players too.
Nice.
Yes.
Did any of you from your grade play up as a freshman or sophomore, play varsity, or were you all wait till junior, senior? How'd that look for you guys?
I played on varsity as a freshman.
As a freshman? How'd you guys do? I think I have a little bit. Oh yeah, I have some of that here. How'd you personally do were you like 6-man type of thing, Carrie, or what'd that look like for you as a freshman and sophomore in varsity?
No, gosh, and no, I was one of the starters.
Okay.
But I was very, very fortunate because I was playing with a really awesome group of upperclassmen that kind of took me under their wing and took me everywhere with them and I really made it. So I had a very easy and a very good experience.
Good. Yep. And I'm just curious and ask, because back then there was, nowadays sometimes in smaller schools, 1A, 2A schools, you get 12 girls out for basketball freshman through senior. And it's like, if you have any athletic ability, you're probably a starter right off the bench as a freshman or sophomore. Back in your day, there could have been, I think I read in one article, there was like 40 to 50 girls out for basketball those first couple years. And that was probably pretty similar in the seasons you guys played. It was just a different era, I guess. So I was just kind of curious about that. So, yeah.
I think there were a lot of good athletes.
Yeah.
I also think that when we were younger, they had the little GBA basketball on Saturday mornings. And I thought as coaches, you did a great job getting those people in the 70s to, when it first got started, to kind of get us interested in it. And we would come in and they would do all sorts of things for an hour or two on Saturday mornings. And that was huge, building the program. So I think we had that desire to be good athletes or be good at basketball at that time because we started coming on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, that's commendable for the coaches for giving up their Saturday mornings to do that as well.
I remember we would have it at the high school most of the time, and there was like, I would say 40 to 50 kids there.
Yeah.
Plus, and it wasn't just the coaches. A lot of these high school girls showed up every Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that, you know, they would rather have been sleeping in or whatever, but and I'm sure all of these guys were, and many more.
Oh,
Oh,
we
yeah.
love, I loved it. I love going.
Yeah.
Well, and they were our idols at that time.
Right.
You know, I think about the people who were there those Saturday mornings, and don't take this personally, but we didn't come because of Coach Hudson and Coach Etringer. We came because of the high school girls,
Yep.
because we wanted to be just like them.
Definitely. Hey, real quick here before we get into the couple seasons leading up to your 80 championship run. Like I said earlier, I do have a long-term sponsor that I just got in Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance. The Jay Hiscox State Farm team in Britt is a proud supporter of West Hancock and the Sanger Legacy Fund. They can help you with all your insurance needs, auto, home, life, farm, business, renters insurance. For a free quote or review, give Jay or Lindsay a call at 843-3563. And he says, go Eagles, go Eagles tonight. Thanks for hopping on for 15 episodes, Jay and team. And he's the head boys basketball coach. So I thought that'd be a good segue into some of this tonight. So let's look back at the 2 seasons before your 80 championship run. In the 77/78 season, you guys won 5 postseason games before you lost to Belmont 74-63. And then the following year, so that would have been your junior year, you guys were 23-2. So it's not like your 80 championship run was a surprise to anybody. You guys had a good couple years leading up to that. Your only 2 losses in that 79 season were to Belmont, 57-55, and then 48-45 in district play. And they made it to state both years, is what I believe I saw in my research. What do you remember about those 2 seasons leading up? Was Belmont kind of that Achilles heel that you knew that senior year you had to get over? How'd that, any of you want to tell any good stories or any memories from those couple seasons before?
They were
I
definitely the
hated
team we
Belmont.
wanted to be.
Yeah.
They always had a tall girl, very tall girl.
Yep.
Made all the points pretty much.
Well, they had Lisa James, Chris Rolland on defense. They had Gloria Sunken, who didn't you play with her at USD?
I did.
Just
Yeah.
1 year, yeah. I mean, they were a force to be reckoned with. They were quick and, you know,
Well coached.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Do
Because
you
then we
remember
played
who the
against them
coach-
in softball too.
And they're always good.
Howard Dorman.
Oh,
Mr. Dorman, yeah.
basketball? Okay. That name was coming to my brain just at that minute you said that. He was good, very good softball coach too, I remember. So
Mhm.
yep. And let's real quick break down 6-on-6 basketball for anyone watching this who's like, she said a girl on defense. Don't you play offense and defense? Not on 6-on-6. Who wants to kind of explain the 6-on-6 game in a nutshell here real quick? What would that look like to someone?
Go ahead, coach.
Well, you've got 2 great examples on each end of the court here. Carrie was just an all-around great athlete in all sports, and she was a very good basketball player, and she could handle the ball and everything. Sue played in the post a lot, and another very good ball handler, very good shooter. Lori Love on the team was another excellent ball handler and player and worked really well. Barb Burgart was, in my 30 plus years, was probably the best ball handler I had ever coached. And she was
Thank
just
you.
so natural and was just always a great defender. And Darla Michelson, you know, she's the best defensive player that I think I've ever coached, other than one other player while I was in Boone. I had a great player there, and Darla was a great player in Boone. And she always got, and sometimes to her height deficit, got stuck with guarding almost always the very best player on the other team. And so these four were all great players at Britt. They would have been great players in any school at Iowa at the time.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
6, we tried to put the best players out there. I think Barb maybe started out as a forward, and kind of it was kind of like we need somebody to bring the ball up the floor, you know. It was, and I think she got through in there just mostly because of those types of skills. So we had great shooters in the Carrie and Sue, and again Darla. We always had some great post players too, though. I shouldn't. So we always felt we needed 2 perimeter players and 2 post players on both ends of the court.
Yep. So
the other thing is kind of unusual, which these guys also did, where it was the 2 dribble limit. You know, Barb could get the ball from the end line and in 2 dribbles have it to midcourt. Carrie could get it at midcourt, 2 dribbles have a layup. You know, and that was one of the as I started. I had no 6-on-6 experience at all when I started with coaching basketball. So it was just kind of one of the things that I was in, and I really enjoyed it much more than 5-on the 5 player. So yeah, that was my rundown, kind of what you needed and what did you have to have.
yep.
Basically, it was 3-on-3 on opposite ends of the courts. You know, you had the 3 offensive players and the 3 defensive players, you know, and vice versa for the other team. So it was 3-on-3 on either end. You could only have, like he said, 2 dribbles. There was a half court line that neither the defense nor the offense could pass, or could not pass over. You could pass over, obviously, but you couldn't step over it. No one crossed the line. And I believe after a made basket, they brought the ball, the referees threw the ball up to half court, and you started with the ball at half court.
Yes.
Yep. I remember seeing that. 2 dribbles, and then made what on a miss basket? If the defense got it on a miss, how did they advance it to the other side of the floor? What would that look like?
They could pass it to each other, pass it up the court, just like a 5-on-5 team might bring it up the court. Except they could only have 2 dribbles. So they could do it through passing, or like Coach was saying, Barb could take her 1 dribble and make it to half court.
So essentially, if you're an offensive player, you still have to play defense because you could steal the ball back, or they'd turn it over, and then you just resume offense after that. So I think what growing up, I understood it was you're either on offense or you're on defense, which technically is the case, but you kind of have to be able to go both ways, just because they have to be able to get the ball to the other side of the court. So it was a neat game, and just a lot of fun to watch the little bit I did get to see of it. So
very fast-paced
Yeah,
game.
that's what I was going to say. It was a very fast-paced game. And I was going to say, Coach Etringer, I think you guys put me as a forward, and I think I played on the freshman team as a forward, but I do think that was a benefit for me because I could kind of think like a forward when I was playing defense. But it was very fast-paced, and I think I like the idea that it utilized a lot of different players. You might not be so talented at shooting, but you had a place there. So that was the beauty of 6-on-6, I think.
Yeah, because 5-on-5, man, if you don't have a couple good ball handlers, it's not very much fun to watch. I mean, it's brutal. So the 6-on-6 game has always been interesting to me because I just think it'd be a fun game still. So, and one last fun question here before we start your 80 title run. Was there ever any animosity between a girl who got put on the defensive side that thought maybe I could score 20 a game? Was there any like fun back and forth with you guys? Like I could see nowadays there's some jealousy or some scuffles with I can't score any points because the coach put me on defense or whatever. But I just thought that was.
Yeah,
I don't think. Go ahead.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
I don't remember.
And we all do our roles.
I think we all knew our roles and we did it. I think that's what made us good, honestly.
Yeah.
That's what makes a team a good team is when you
Mhm.
know your job. So, all right, let's walk and talk through your regular season, 1980, 1979, 1980. You started the season with a loss to West Central Maynard. You guys lost 74-70. But then we'll see in the regional final, you guys got a little revenge and beat them to go to state. Why did you guys play West Central Maynard? That's not exactly like it's Garner 10 minutes away. That's a long trip for whoever had to travel. What was the reason for that being on their schedule? Do you guys know? Coach, you would maybe know more than that.
I think, this may be wrong, but I think we were in, way back then, homeschool would set up a clinic type situation where they would do show drills and things, and there'd be like 6 or 8 schools, and then 4 schools would maybe play that night.
Mhm.
And I think we were in the Hampton Clinic.
Yeah.
Yep,
And I
it was.
And I
Yeah,
think
we were
that's how we got into that.
Okay.
And later on, when I was coaching in a United Community, Bill ran clinics in Britt, and we played, never did play Britt though, but we played a few other local teams
Yep.
in that.
I
But
just
I'm
asked because
pretty
I was
sure
like,
that was-
normally you see Titonka or Corwith on a non-conference schedule, so I'm close. So I didn't know what the story was behind that, or maybe
Yeah.
they were really good and you guys wanted some good competition to start the year. So
Well, I think that was part of it too. I think we both were probably ranked in some preseason poll, I'm guessing,
Mhm.
too.
Yep, and they made it to the regional final, so they must have been
Yeah.
good, obviously. So,
Yeah.
all right,
But
let's.
I think the reason, so you want to tell why we lost?
We just got back from state volleyball, so we only had
Mhm.
3 days of practice. Not making
Mhm.
excuses, but being a forward, I fouled out in that game. I was being fool, but yeah. So
That's
we
hard to
just
do
got
as a
warm.
forward.
We were tired. Yeah.
That was usually my role.
Mhm.
So
No,
Yeah.
that's right. It was
only
state
lost by
volleyball. We were
3.
coming
That's
back.
pretty good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, Carrie.
So let's break down the schedule here. After that loss, you guys beat Crystal Lake 86-40. You beat Garrigan 105-48. Dropping 100 is always kind of a fun deal. You beat Lake Mills 83-45, Northwood 90-44, Garrigan 77-51. One thing I found interesting looking at all this was Garrigan was not a conference school back then. Is there any reason why you guys played Garrigan twice, or just need to add games? Do you know that, Coach, at all? Why
No,
Garrigan-
I guess I really don't. If there was a certain reason we played them, athletic directors knew each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
We maybe needed games. We had been fairly successful up to that point. So it may have been a little struggle to
Yeah.
find some non-conference games for us.
Yeah. When I talked to
Mhm.
Coach Timmerman, when he was the AD in the 80s,
Mhm.
90s, early 2000s, when I talked to him and his son Mark, he said that with football then, and even some sports back in the day, was schools didn't want to play us. It took sometimes 50 phone calls to find one opponent to play us. They were just like, nah, we're good. So I was just curious what was why Garrigan was on there. You guys beat Buffalo Center 96-65. And then one game I highlighted here is you beat Belmont 62-40. Finally got the win against Belmont, so that had to have felt pretty good to get a little monkey off your back there. Yep. And then moving on here, you beat Garner 39-40 or 79-46. You beat Osage 77-39. Beat Forest City 64-41. Beat Lake Mills 75-29. Beat Northwood 85-51. And then kind of a more lower scoring game, you beat Buffalo Center 49-28 after you beat them by dropping 96 the first game. And then, not to bring up any bad memories here, but Garner, you guys lost to them 35-28. I wish I would have added up your average leading up to this game. It had to have been close to 75, 80 points a game. And some of you were talking about this before we hit record. What was the difference between beating them by 33 earlier and then losing them by 7 and only scoring 28 points. Who wants to explain that one?
Well, I think you saw, and I could be wrong on this. First, what I'm going to say is because when you said the Buffalo Center score, which was kind of a low one as well, I think that's when teams started. I think they thought they could maybe beat us by stalling.
Yeah.
And I think Buffalo Center tried that too, but we must have gotten ahead at some time and they couldn't do it. But with Garner, I don't know what happened there, but we could never. It's almost, I remember on the forward end almost panicking when we finally get the ball because we weren't used to waiting that long. It's a very fast-paced game. We were not used to waiting that long for the ball, and I think we kind of panicked.
Right.
Right.
No one rushed it down there and think we had to score right away, and we just never got a lead.
Yeah, been getting a rhythm.
Yep.
When teams would stall, would it be like a dribble, weave pass, like a weave type of thing? Is that what they would do? Just kind of go back and forth on the perimeter? Or?
And and they spread out, and I felt like, if my memory serves me right, I felt like we worked our rear ends off trying to get the ball, and kind of like Carrie said, if we did get it back, and we would get it to the forward side, and it's not that Garner they were a good team, but they definitely knew how to push our buttons that night, and we kind of unraveled that night too. I mean, I think it was actually probably one of the best things that happened to us. In hindsight, it didn't feel good at the time at all, but it was probably one of the best things that happened to us as a team because it kept us more focused on what we needed to do to get better.
Yeah, good wake up call.
What do you remember, Coach? I'm interested to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking too that at one point in the game, we almost had to have the guards not even guard them, because you had to advance the ball or try to advance the ball. So if the guards are all standing on the baseline, they just couldn't, their guards had to bring the ball up, and vice versa on the other end of the floor. They had to do something. And I think late in the game, we fouled them just as soon as they touched the ball, and a few things like that. I think it was just, we weren't as well prepared for that. And I think, looking back and kind of what Bill and I discussed, if that would happen again, we would just trust our forwards a lot more, play a lot more guards, and just every time they touched the ball, if that was going to be the case, we would just foul and just try to beat them, that way, just they'd have to make free throws. We were pretty sure we could score, and we, were able to against about anybody, offensively.
Like you guys all said, it's probably a blessing in disguise because it woke you up a little bit. And in the postseason, if anyone else ever stalled on you, then you'd know what to do at that point. So that's good. But you guys definitely rebounded back because after that loss, you beat Osage 65-43. Beat Forest City 73-47, and that wrapped up your regular season at 15-2. You were the NIC champions, and then we move on to postseason. Your postseason was nuts. You had 2 sectional games, 1 district game, and then a regional game just to get to state. Well, I don't know why they had to classify and call it so many different things. And then we'll get to the state tournament here in a minute, which is weird as it is with just the way they had it set up, but I thought it was pretty neat. Looking at sectionals here, you have 2 sectional games. The first game you beat Rockwell Swaledale 88-37. In the sectional final, I guess you call it, you beat Newman 61-41. In the district game, it's a district final because it's just 1 game, you beat Green 70-57. And then you got your rematch in the regional final with West Central Maynard, which they always say it's hard to beat a team a second or a third time in a season. So I would think that maybe you had a good feeling going into this game. You guys beat them 61-55 to go to state. So talk about the rematch with West Central Maynard. What was the difference from game 1 to game 20 or whatever it was? And what was it like? What did it feel like knowing that you're going to go play at state the first time? A lot of questions there, but just someone have at it.
I can say the only thing I remember about the West Central Maynard game is maybe the last minute when that clock wouldn't move.
Mhm.
Yep.
Did you have to hit free throws at the end to kind of keep the lead, or how'd that look? You just kind of keep.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
No.
I mean, we were probably just, the adrenaline that it was the game before state, just wanting to beat them because we lost him before.
Mhm. Yep.
I also think we were just thankful it wasn't Belmont again.
Yeah, I like I said, I do remember, like I said, watching that clock and wishing it would count down a heck of a lot faster in that game. Because when you're that close to something that you've wanted for so long, the clock just doesn't move.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep, just want to get it over. I didn't put this in the notes, but it just popped into my head. Leading up to state, what was your the community support from Britt? Like pack the stands every night. Just gyms were full and loud all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My parents,
Awesome.
Sometimes
My
they had
parents would
TVs.
leave-
Oh, good. Sorry, Sue.
my parents would leave before I would get on the bus. My parents would leave the house so they could make sure they'd have a seat.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And sometimes I think they had TVs set up in other rooms
Yep,
Mhm.
they did.
It's
so
pretty
people
neat.
could watch. Yeah.
I think, like in the cafeteria, I think they had 2 or 3
Yeah.
TVs set up.
They did,
Last
yeah.
Probably 8
Yeah.
or 10 home games we had. I mean, it was that full.
Yeah, it was packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, when I played in 2002 to 2005, the gym would still be full for us. That just is a testament to the Britt community, the Kanawha communities that they support to this day. 40 years ago, 50, whatever. It's just really neat. And speaking of a few of those people, got a couple more sponsors here. Like I said, I have a lot of sponsors now. Renee Diemer probably went to some of your games. She owns Diemer Realty. They are all about hometown hospitality and service with a smile. That's what Diemer Realty is all about, helping buyers and sellers make a smooth transition when moving within or to the area. That's their priority, serving North Central Iowa since 1999. They have steadily grown over the years, establishing an outstanding record of sales in the North Iowa area that speaks to their dedication to every customer. Check out diemerrealty.net. And not to be outdone is her husband, Jim, with the Britt Vet Clinic. He's a champion himself. He was on the 73 football team. They're also long-term sponsoring this podcast. They're located downtown Britt. They're there for all your small animal vet needs and swine vet services. Call them at 843-3416. Email them at brittvetclinic@gmail.com. Again, you guys are going to state. How'd you feel going into the state tournament? You saw the brackets, who you're going to play. What was the week of practice leading up to that? Coach, maybe you have some insights. Did you guys change anything? Did you try to keep things the same? Try to keep them from going crazy leading up to the game? What'd you guys do there?
Probably keeping us from going crazy. I really don't think we changed hardly anything. I know Bill had some good friends that gave us some good information on, some of our opponents and things like that. But I don't think we changed a lot. And I think as coaches, I was, and I know Bill was very confident going to the state.
Mhm.
Good. Yeah. What about you ladies? What were you thinking leading up to the tournament?
The one thing I want to mention, because you were talking about the community support, because that was just phenomenal. I mean, I think First State Bank rented 5 charter buses
Mhm.
and took 5 charter buses, plus you had the pep buses that came
Mhm.
on the school buses or whatever, but 5 charter buses.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was nuts.
And the whole town closed down. All the businesses.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was phenomenal.
That's neat.
But I don't, that first game, when I remember, one of the things I remember, I don't think we were supposed to win. I don't think we were picked to win that game. Somebody may remember something different. but I don't think
Guthrie
we-
Center?
No, Rockwell City.
Oh, yeah, Rockwell City. Okay. I don't
I know
remember.
they had a really good record, and I know we had a lot of information on them. at the time, and I think Bill maybe had even seen them play a couple of times, and they were a very good team. So, yeah,
So
they were a tough opponent.
So like I said, the tournament itself, the leading up to state and state is nothing like we see anymore. We had all those different categories of postseason leading up to state. Here's how the state tournament worked in 1980. And one of you thought that this was the only year they did this, which makes it even cooler. 16 teams made the state tournament, 4 from 1A, 4 from 2A, 4 from 3A, 4 from 4A to make 16 teams. So there's essentially 4 mini tournaments within one big bracket. If you won your class, you won your first game, which was like the semifinal, and then your second game was the state championship for your class. And then you moved on to like a tournament of champions, so to speak. And they had it where the winner of 2A, which was you guys, played the winner of 3A, the winner of 1A played the winner of 4A, and then those winners played for the overall championship, and the losers played for consolation for third and fourth. Like I said, I don't think they did that much, if at all, after this season. We were discussing that via Messenger. You guys didn't think that was a format they used before or since. So you guys were the 2A tournament. So you had 1A up here, 2A, 3A, 4A. You played Rockwell City in the first round and beat them 64-52. Was this game ever close? Were you guys kind of ahead quite a bit? Was it close for a while? Did you pull ahead? Kind of walk us through that first round of the 2A tournament for us.
I think, wasn't it close the first half? Because I remember, didn't I have like 3 or 4 fouls? I remember that because they had a flopper guard. And she would flop every time I'd turn around or something, she'd flop, and I had all these fouls, which was freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah. They weren't real fouls.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was back
Did the
and forth.
coaches ever say anything? Sorry, did coaches ever say anything at halftime? Did you ever talk to refs? Because I do remember them her flopping all the time.
You know, at state tournament, you can't talk to the refs or very little, even back then. And so I'm sure Bill or I said something quite important to them during the game.
Get their attention a little bit.
No, and I don't remember. I kind of like Carrie. I think the game was close, but the second half it didn't seem in doubt. You know what I say?
Yeah.
I think it was a good. We played a good team, and we played pretty well.
Good.
I do remember the fouls, Carrie.
Oh, I know you do. Oh yeah.
And I remember it being my birthday.
Oh yes, that's right.
First game was my birthday. So
It's a good birthday.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that win got you into the 2A championship game. So essentially 8 teams left in the state. We played and beat Guthrie Center 62-61. So you won the state championship by 1 point. I looked on my sources in the Britt archives, and I could find all the stuff about after the game. I didn't get a good story of what happened during the game. So did you come from behind? Were you up big? What was the story there in that championship game?
I don't know. Was it back and forth?
I think it goes back and forth.
It was back and forth.
Yeah, the ending
Yeah.
was. I know Carrie had the ball like on the elbow or near the free throw line, and made a tremendous pass to Lori Love, was just standing under the basket with nobody on her, but she got really fouled. I mean, I don't think she made the basket, but then made the free throws to follow.
She made one of them.
She missed the
Yeah.
first one and made the second, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And there was what I found on the news articles, there was 11 seconds left, and then their forward threw a 20-foot shot with 2 seconds left. Wasn't that what we were talking about? And then it was on the rim, and then it did not go in, and then we won.
Yes.
Oh, that'd have been a long couple seconds right there.
Oh yeah.
It was.
It was.
Yeah.
What do you remember about after that buzzer went off and that ball didn't go in? What was the celebration like on the court, in the locker room? What were you feeling
Crazy.
there?
Very cool.
Yeah.
The whole
Jumping
Britt
up and
crowd,
down.
yeah.
Rolling on the floor. That's what I remember. Just rolling this way, rolling this way. People were around
Oh.
us, trying not to have anybody step on us, but the whole crowd came off the,
Yep. Storm the
out of the
floor.
bleachers, and they were celebrating right there with us, and
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Yeah, I don't think
Best
they were
feeling in
supposed
the
to
world.
be, I don't think they were supposed to be on the court, but they
No.
stormed the court.
They stormed the court. Kisses and hugs from everybody. Didn't know. It was.
I think it was an afternoon game, and I think the security wasn't quite as much as in some of the evening. Yeah, that's what I remember. Our whole row of chairs was just flattened, like people coming out of the crowd.
Totally worth it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I put in the notes here, talking to people I know, like they said, Mrs. Sanger, this was one of her all-time favorite Britt West Hancock memories, was that 80 girls state championship basketball team. So, and if you know anything, she's been struggling the last couple years. So I wanted to shout out Mrs. Sanger here. She's one of my favorite teachers, and they said this meant a lot to her. And her son Kevin said he was 10 when this happened, and he's like, I can't wait for this episode because I remember going to those games and watching. So I just wanted to throw that out there to Mrs. Sanger. Hopefully she'll watch this, and we're always thinking about you.
And
She was definitely our biggest fan and cheerleader. She was with us every step of the way, and not just in basketball, in every sport, and
Yeah.
pretty much every activity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was kind of the glue for us,
Mhm.
I think, because she was that mother figure for all of us girls. And she, she probably told the coaches, hey, this is going on and this is going on, with us, without us telling the coaches, like we were upset with something, but she kept an eye on us, and she mothered us and loved us and just really took such good care of us too. And she was just as much of that coaching staff as Coach Etringer and Coach Hudson. So very important role in our, what do I want to say? In our team.
Success. In our success.
Success, yeah.
Yeah.
Our team.
That just
She's
that means a
amazing.
lot, 'cause she's seen 50+ years of Britt and West Hancock athletics, and this is one of her top ones. That just thought that was pretty neat. So,
Yeah.
but for you
I was gonna
guys,
say,
oh, go ahead,
for-
Coach.
I was just gonna say for Linda, I usually sat with Bill going to the games, and I'd say 90% of the time I sat with Linda going back, it was a totally different, and she was such a caring person for the kids. So she was,
Mhm,
that was very important to her.
mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
She helped a lot of old coaches.
Plus, I remember she and Brenda Hanson, I think were the team chaperones at the state tournament. So that wasn't there a broken bed involved in that?
Boy.
I remember Kevin and Mark. Mark was our mascot. Mark Hudson
Yeah.
was our mascot.
Yeah,
He was
Right.
in the Eagle costume.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I do remember Kevin and Ricky running around, they were always there and stuff. So those were fun memories to have.
Yeah.
I remember Bob pulling me out of study hall to go down and play him in horse. Down the gym. I don't know if he ever pulled you guys out, but
Mhm.
Linda would just shake her head like, really? You pulled her out of class, but yeah, fun
Did you-
times.
Did you beat him?
He cheated. No, he didn't cheat. He didn't cheat. But
Sue, where'd you go?
Yeah, where'd you go?
so, sorry. No.
That made an impact
He
on
had-
you, didn't he?
Yeah. He had a shot that he'd shoot behind the basket and over, and that's how he'd win. I'd be like, you're out of bounds. That doesn't even count. But
As long as you never played against him in ping pong, that was what he always got us in.
Yeah.
That was not pretty. I thought I was
Yep.
pretty good. And I would get 2 points on him the whole game. So,
yep.
so after you won the 2A title, the crowd rushed the court crazy. You guys still had 2 more games to go, which, like I said, is just a very unique format. Usually, when you win the state championship, that's the end of your season. So you guys had to play a school I used to teach at, actually, the 3A champion, Norwalk. You lost to them 81-78. And then the next day you had to come back for a consolation game. I just can't imagine. You win a state championship, You have to come back and figure out how to play another game, lose a close one, and then you have to play another game the next day. You played the 1A champ, Terrell, who's now part of GTRA school, and we play them in football. You lost to them 69-66. What was kind of your mentality for those consolation games, that tournament of champions per se?
I think we, at least I remember, I think we actually thought we would win. I mean, could win.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
I would agree.
I think we thought we could probably win the whole thing.
We did, yes. I agree.
And I
Yep.
think we could have.
Mhm. I think
that was
so.
my next question. If you would have beaten Norwalk, do you think you would have beaten Ankeny? That's just crazy to think Britt playing Norwalk, Britt playing Ankeny.
Mhm.
It's kind of
I know.
fun
I
dreaming
would like
about
to, I would like to have had that opportunity. I think.
Really. Mhm. Oh, that would have been great.
Yep, that's neat.
Yeah.
So after those 4 games, you got 4 state tournament games. Carrie scored a tournament leading 209 points in 4 games. That's just over a 50 point a game average. You were named the MVP of the entire tournament, all classes. You also tied a tournament record with 21 straight made free throws. Darla, I saw that you led the tournament with 8 steals. Sue was 4th in assists. I never saw a total. It just said you were 4th in assists. Anything else statistically or memory wise or stories you guys want to tell about your 4 days down at state? That's popping into your head.
My memory is just that I bothered somebody with my guarding techniques. And, that was, I think it kind of, because I think he thought I was unsportsmanlike, but I was just trying to do anything I could just to get under her skin. And I succeeded, but, the technique was that I just covered her eyes and she kept pushing my hand down or hitting. I mean, like I just got her in foul trouble. So, but that was, for me, that was kind of the part of the game where when I heard that this pastor wrote an article about me and what a poor sportsman, that bothered me, but I was like, well, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it wasn't just the hand over the eyes thing. I mean, you actually took her spot. She had a spot. I'm talking about Cheryl Tuning, who was a very
yes.
good basketball player. And Barb would take her spot because she sat down there on that block and she could just turn around, and she's probably about 5'11",
Yeah.
foot maybe, a good player. And she would just turn around on that block and bank it off and put it in, or not bank it, either way. But Barb took her spot. Barb would just beat her to the block and stand in the block. So Cheryl had to kind of move off her spot, which really, I think, really bothered her. And actually, I think, at the end of the game, when she missed that shot and it rung around the rim, I mean, all this kind of bugging that Barb had done, I think, kind of
Rattled
really
her.
a big part
Mhm.
of that. Yeah.
Okay, I have to bring up another memory. It was, speaking of bugging, okay, the Rockwell Hilldale, this sectional game. Carrie and I had a heyday. Lori and I had a heyday. Carrie had to just go stand in the corner.
I think that was
And
Rice.
they-
That was Riceville.
Was it
Yeah.
Riceville? Damn, I didn't
That's what my
see that.
dad said. It was Riceville, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we played him in Riceville. Do you remember that, Coach Tringer?
No.
They double
no.
teamed her.
Yeah.
Lori and I would just pass back and forth and go in for layups and give and
Yeah.
goes. And
Yeah, I got to
That's
stand
right.
out. Stand out at half court. It was
Yeah.
very exciting.
They just followed you. They just kind
I
of,
know. It was.
it was, but I didn't see Riceville in here, Carrie.
I know. I don't either. I didn't hear him say Riceville, so I don't know where he got
Yeah,
that.
maybe the game was in Riceville at a playoff game. Sometimes you play neutral sites. I don't know.
Yeah.
My thought is
Maybe.
they put 2 girls on you at half court. Can you imagine the conversation those 3 girls had of who actually has to play defense against you 2 and just
Yeah.
Yeah.
follow you back and forth like a ping pong ball? She probably.
Well,
drew the
yeah,
court
and they just
closer
stuck
to
that
her.
one. As I remember, they just stuck that person back in the middle of the key, in
Just
the middle of the
kinda-
lane. I mean,
Yep.
that's where she sat.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a
Yep.
shoot stick,
All
like
she
you
could
said.
do. I mean,
Yeah.
Yep. So the Britt paper reported that over 700 people greeted you guys back at the school, and you had about a 5-mile caravan that they estimated over 100 cars were in that caravan. And like we've talked about already, the community support is pretty neat. In Britt, just people show up for games, people care, it's a big deal, it's what people talk about. So I just thought that needed to be brought up. 700 people, 5-mile caravan, 100 cars. What was that like back at the school? They have like a rally for you guys and trophy presentation and all that good stuff.
Yep. And it was one thing I remember, remember when we would participate in the old GBA on Saturday morning? Well, I remember the kids that we had as little kids coming up and giving us hugs. And, you know, we were their role models. I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. You became legends after you won the state title. That's people still 40 years later still talking about it. So, neat. So how about
And
after
if we
high school?
could,
What's that?
we'd go back out and play again.
Yeah.
Well, that was in my notes. I went, and when I was in high school, they had a 6-on-6 alumni game, and I went and remember someone blowing out their knee during the game. That was you, Barb?
Go
ahead.
I blew it out. Actually, we had a practice that afternoon, and I went to go pick up somebody's girl, and I blew it out then, but I did try to play that night. I said, Lisa Hiscox actually drove me home that night. And I just remember just like breathing in the corner there, go, can you say anything? And I'm like, no, I can't. And I said, I was just like, oh my goodness, I had never hurt myself like that before. So it was pretty interesting. But 3 of us blew our knee out at that alumni game.
Ooh, man.
Is that why we've never had another winner?
Probably.
Wasn't that a fundraiser for the new bleachers? That went in? Yeah, because Brenda Perkins was guarding me,
And
I turned and she didn't, and she went down, and she was the other ACL. I don't remember the third.
I don't remember there being 3.
There were 3 of us because 2 of them happened during the game. I did mine earlier, but I tried to play, and I think Melanie Hempy was there also. And I said, as long as I went straight, I was fine. But when I went side to side, and I just remember guarding my cousin, Connie Lynn Burgart, and she kind of gave me a hip and I went flying, and I remember just on one leg. And I said, well, I guess I'm done. So I just went and sat the rest of the night. So
I don't know why that reminds me, but I feel like I want to mention too that on that championship team, I mean, we had some really good underclassmen.
Right.
Also.
Leanne Haley.
Rhonda
Wells.
Here's a poor picture
Tammy
of it.
Brum was part of that.
Oh.
I remember that
see that?
picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tammy Brum was part of that crew.
We had, and then we had a couple freshmen that went with us in tournaments, Tracy Reinhardt and Lisa Hiscox.
Natalie Foy,
too.
I believe.
Mary Jane, was she?
Mary Jane,
also?
yes, I
And
spotted
then we had some really good, I think, statisticians
Hughes.
that always went with us too, Linda Hughes and Cindy Noble.
Yeah, right.
And Coach over here looking nice and dressed up.
Wow.
Okay,
Good picture.
I have to tell you a memory because the coach's viewpoint was that we wore dresses. I never owned so many dresses in my life
Either.
because we wore dresses and we played pretty much like Monday, Tuesday,
Thursday, Friday.
it was a Thursday, Friday, something like that.
Something like
And
that.
we were expected to wear dresses to school and dress pants. You know, we needed to be presentable and to represent our team. I think actually I might not have liked it so much like in the winter, but I do think that it was, you know, it was how you felt, you represented yourself well, and that was huge. So I do remember that kind of coming from the coaches, and that was huge. And it was probably good for us. Built character.
Little things add up over time, that's for sure.
Right.
It's real quick. You mentioned Brenda Perkins. That just
Mhm.
cracks me up because actually we go to church together here in Indianola.
Oh, tell her hi. Tell her hi.
Boys, she has twin boys like I
Yeah.
do, and they were in my small group. I help with our youth group at our church, so they were. I just ran into one of them the other day. I wish I would have known she was one that blew her ACL out. I would have mentioned that to her at some point, but
Tell her I'm sorry.
that's Sue's fault. So, yeah. What else do you guys want to bring up? Just I just love this. You're kind of telling stories, bringing up some memories. Other teachers, other coaches. I know you guys had some success in volleyball. What do you guys? Floor is yours. Anything else that you guys want to talk about here while we have some time?
I
I
just-
was going to say I was softball coach for a couple of years, and all these guys played, and we had some wonderful seasons with and I track coach, and there's a lot of the girls that were contributed in a lot more than basketball, and I know volleyball also. I wasn't really involved in that, but track and softball I was for a few years. So, and then again. I know Barb says Linda Sanger was just like a wonderful person to be around and to be around our team, and helped everybody a lot. And just, I was going to throw one more thing in there. I don't know if a lot of people remember this, but Bob Sanger coached the junior high girls for a year or two, I think, when they had a little hard time finding somebody. So that would be
Really?
interesting little
I don't
tidbit.
remember that.
Too many people knew. I think Brenda DeGoose might have been one of his players in junior high, and I'm not sure. I can't really quite come up with some of the other ones. Natalie Foy probably would have been in that group. But yeah,
Huh.
Wow. There was a great bunch of kids there. The 9 years I was there, there was a great bunch of kids there.
We were very blessed to be able to go in volleyball and basketball and track and softball. Our sophomore year, we were one run away from state.
Oh,
Remember that?
Yeah.
how'd you guys do in state volleyball? Haven't done a lot of research on the
Mm.
volleyball program.
Well, at that time, there were no classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember you would get in pool play, and I think we would get in with, one or two of the Dubuque schools at that time who were like,
Yeah.
compared to us professionals.
Yeah, very tall.
So I don't remember which year, I don't remember every year what happened, but I remember we were excited when we were able to take, a couple games off some of these schools because they were a lot bigger than we were.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
very tall.
Yes.
But we made it to state in volleyball. We made it 3 years in a row, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We did.
Probably the last time too, because I know I don't remember in my lifetime ever making it in volleyball. So you're probably the last teams.
I think, and it's, I don't know how true it is, because I know now, girls, guys, whatever, get into club sports and things like that, concentrating more maybe in one sport or two sports or whatever. And I feel like at our time, we would go through sport from sport to sport to sport. I mean, many of us were 4-sport athletes or 3-sport athletes or 2, so it was kind of that was kind of what we did at that time.
I think the smaller districts still kind of do that. They play, because they need all the girls to play all those sports. But when you get to bigger districts now, they don't need everybody.
Right.
And, or you can specialize a little bit. But I was also going to say, I think some of our class happened to be pretty athletic. And I do think we need to thank Bob and Linda Sanger for that, because PE classes were co-ed. And our girls were pretty wicked in dodgeball. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks to Coach Etringer. You worked with me a lot on my shot. I had a weird right hand that wanted to do it. So you took your time, and I appreciate you. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Sticking with me. And then Coach Hudson, I don't know if he wrote all the seniors a letter when they graduated, but you know, I treasured that letter through the years, you know, when you go off to college and you just don't have those relationships as you do that you play in high school. And it got me through some pretty tough times. So I appreciate Coach Hudson doing that, you know, and Linda and Bob are just priceless. I mean, they're the reason I went into PE for 28 years, but now I'm retired. So pretty nice people. And then to Harold, all the weekends that he played basketball with us, you know, at the elementary school with the bats in the playground.
Well, my dad would also take a group of players down to the state tournament.
Yep.
I don't know how many years he did that, but he would take us down to watch. I mean, we'd stay down there for 4 or 5 days.
Yep.
So that
And
was,
I think that, that was, all of that was, you know, just being friends too, you know, and how we did everything together, and we were a team. We weren't just individual players. And I mean, there's just a lot to say about that. And all the people that your dad, and I agree.
we had a lot of support.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I want to thank, because, you know, yes, because we had Coach Hudson. Coach Hudson was kind of the father of the program or whatever, but Coach Etringer was with us
Yes.
from when we started 7th grade on. You know, he was our coach right to begin with, and kind of came all the way through with us. So he was always there.
Right.
Great.
Yes.
Awesome.
We're
Well,
blessed.
Yes.
And that's one reason why I do this. It's one reason I put that record book out there. It's such a neat community, such a neat place, and I just can't stress it enough. People were down here are just like, you really care about your high school that much? You've been out for 16, 17 years. I'm like, yeah, I care about it more now than I ever have. It's just, you see from another perspective how special it actually was. You don't sometimes see that while you're there. It's just, you're young and just going through life, and now that I've been out of it for a while, you appreciate it a lot and see what there's not a lot of places out there like Britt and like West Hancock. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. I got a couple more things to plug. Speaking of awesome alumni and great community support, Kurt Kopacik donated a set of Coach Bob Sanger cornhole boards from a company in Georgia. I've been posting online about this, buying raffle tickets. The boards he purchased with Coach Sanger's football and track accolades cost about $275, and then we spent a little more money to get them shipped up here to Iowa for Hobo Days. We've sold almost 100 tickets so far. All the money's going to the Sanger Legacy Fund. If you need information on buying those raffle tickets, message me. You can Venmo me, PayPal, send checker money to my address, and I'll get it taken care of. We'll do the drawing on August 25th in about a month during the 96th State Championship Football Team episode. It's a great way to support the Legacy Fund. Thanks again to Ewing Funeral Home, Jay Hiscox of State Farm Insurance, Diemer Realty, and Britt Vet Clinic, and all of you on screen here for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Thanks again for coming on here, ladies. I appreciate it. After this episode, in a couple weeks, I'll be talking to Chad Trulson, a 92 graduate. I call him the Brittest man that ever did Britt. He's a guy who loves his hometown more than just about anybody I've ever met. After that, I am going to actually have a special episode. Jim Trulson, he's a 1942 Britt graduate, is going to come on with me. I'm actually going to go over to his house and talk with him. He's 97 years old and is really excited to do that. So hopefully we pull it off. And then Coach Chuck Buseman, Russ King, Aaron Rasmussen, the 96 State Championship football team, Rod Barkema, Ann Hagen, Brent Hagen, Jason Harle, Duane Cook, Rachel Leerar, Dave Smith, and Gene Guenther. And I just added another one, and it'll be Bob, Craig, and Mark Eisenman. The Eisenman boys from the 70s are going to come on.
Nice.
That's actually going to be like next March. I have these booked out till about March, so kind of fun.
Nice.
I have a lot to look forward to. So before we end with some Go E-Gals, any last shout outs or anything you guys want to throw out there to anyone watching this?
We missed you, Lori and Jean.
Yeah.
Just gonna say that.
And Tam.
Yes, and Tam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great episode. So
Like,
yeah.
Shout out to all the Brit fans. They're
Yes.
wonderful supporters of the
Excellent.
student athletes. And in town.
All right. Make sure you give to the Legacy Fund at sangerstrong.com. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks again, everybody, for coming on. I appreciate it. And it was a fun night to reminisce about your 1980 championship season. So,
Thank
right,
you.
Thank
bet.
you.
Thank you.
Go
Go
Eagles.
Eagles!
Yep,
Eagles.
here you go.